Hello, math students. So here are some tips and tricks as to how we would like you to approach your assessments moving forward. First thing that's, very important is to actually very carefully read the directions before you start working on a problem. So the very first part of the test says, compare using greater than, less than, or equal. And each number here had a circle. So we had to decide which number was larger. So as a refresher, you're able to use your sleeve on this. So if the number for the first one was 4/10, I'm going to go ahead to my sleeve and I'm going to put 4/10. And then the other number I was comparing it to was 127 thousandths. So underneath, I'm going to put my 127 thousandths. And then I need to annex my zeros, meaning any extra spaces, I'm going to put a zero to hold that place value. And then I'm simply comparing the numbers. And remember, when I'm comparing, I start with the largest value. So in this case, we know tenths are larger than hundredths or thousandths. So I'm comparing the 4 to the 1. I don't have to go any further. I know that 4 is larger than 1. So in this case, that means that Pac-Man would be eating the 4/10. You could also just make a little place value chart on the actual test. The next one was 2 thousandths plus 400ths. So the first thing I would do is make sure I have that number correct on my sleeve. Once again, 2 thousandths. So I'm going to go to the thousandths place. I'm going to put a 2 plus 400ths. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my 4 in the hundredths place. And then I have 0/10. So first step is I need to make sure I have the correct number in my sleeve. And I'm comparing that in letter B to, 36 thousandths. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put, remember the stop sign method, thousandths is the last thing coming out of my mouth. So 36 thousandths, and then I've got to put my 0. So now I'm comparing 0, 0. There's nothing larger there. They're equal. Then we have 4 or 3, 400ths or 300ths. So I can stop. I have a winner. The winner is 42 thousandths is larger than 36 thousandths. So in this case, Pac-Man would be eating the 42 thousandths because it is larger. Okay, the next one, and again, we have to make sure we get our numbers correctly in our sleeve, is 2/10, 3/10, and 1,000. Sorry, friends, it's over here. 2/10, 2/10, 3/10, and 1,000. So I will plug those numbers in, and I will see which one is larger. Same thing for all the other ones on this page. So each one of these the idea here is to plug it into your sleeve and to then decide which one is larger. So I'm going to leave the answer key here for just a moment, and I will zoom out. You can pause the video so you can get all the correct answers here. This is the answer key for the first page. Pardon me, I'm going to make it smaller. Okay, so here are, and again, pause if you need to. Here are the answers for the first page of the test. And again, once you watch this and you take a look at it, you're going to decide if you need to sit with a teacher for help on this. But that was what you needed to do on that first page of the assessment. The next page on the assessment, this was the directions. We always want to read the directions. Model the number 8 and 88/100ths on the place value chart. First thing we had to do is actually put the 8 and 88/100ths on the chart. And then we need to follow the directions. So letter A says, use words, numbers, and your model to explain why each of the digits in the number 8 and 88/100 has a different value. Okay, and we stopped the test and explained that we had to actually circle the words and make some choices. So it says the 8 in the 10th place is 10 times smaller than the 8 in the ones place. So let's look, okay? Right now, we're just looking at this original number that we plugged in, okay? I'm going to cover up the rest. So it says the 8 in the 10th place, so I have to look at that 8, is 10 times smaller than the 8 in the ones place. This is just comparing the value of these digits because they're in different places. And then as it goes on, we needed to circle and talk about the different values in the different places. The rest of the page is asking us to go ahead and follow the directions to make sure that we are answering the questions being asked. And just as a friendly reminder, for letter B, it says we're going to take that 8 and 88/100 and we're going to multiply it by 10 to the third. Well, that really means 10 times 10 times 10, or 3 jumps, which is why, and we're getting bigger, why we jumped 3. So I'm going to stop talking for a minute. I'm going to leave the answers up, and I would like you to look at this page. You can stop the video, make sure you understand what needed to be done here, and then we will continue the video. However, very important, if you do not understand this page, after you watch the video, you must come see Mrs. Sweetman or Mrs. Helfand. Okay, we're going to go on to the next page. This one was talking about rainfall collected in a rain gauge was found to be 2 3/10 centimeters when rounded to the nearest tenth of a centimeter. That is very important. Now, many of you were able to do your rounding, which was phenomenal, but then you didn't look at the rest of the question. It said, round the numbers below and circle all the measurements below that could round to 2 and 3 centimeters of rainfall. So after you did your rounding, you had to circle, in this case, Mrs. Sweetman asterisked them, but same idea, all of the numbers, or all of the measurements, that could round to 2 and 3 centimeters of rainfall. So see this one, we rounded to 2 3/10. So we put an asterisk there because that could be rounded to 2 3 centimeters. After you figured out all your rounding, you needed to then either circle or asterisk or put a box, whatever floats your boat there, friends. You've got to actually answer the question being asked. So again, I'm going to pause for a moment and I'm going to let you stop the video, take a look at the answers, and then start the video for the last page when you're ready. Here are those answers. And again, if you don't understand this, you need to see Mrs. Helfand or Mrs. Sweetman. Okay, last page. This one, it's more rounding. It's just a little bit different. And it's also comparing numbers. So it says average annual rainfall total for cities in New York are listed below. So we had to actually look at Rochester, Ithaca, Saratoga Springs, and New York City. This is the average rainfall for those cities. And then it says put the rainfall measurements in order from least to greatest, smallest to biggest. And it says use your chart. So what we needed to do here was the same thing we did on page 1. We needed to actually plug these numbers into our chart and determine which was the smallest, because it says start with the smallest, and which was the greatest. And then once we do that, it asked us to put the answer for the total rainfall in Ithaca, so that would be this one, in word form. Now, if you don't remember what word form was, remember we told you, use this packet. We want you to be able to use your tools. So you would have wanted to go ahead and find in the packet the page that said word form. In this case, it was express in words. And that pretty much tells you exactly what we were looking for. So we want you to use the tools that we give you. And then the rest was to write it in expanded form, which again, we had in that packet for you. So if you didn't remember what is expanded form, you had an example in your packet that we told you you could use during the assessment. You need to use that tool. And then the rest is a repeat pretty much of rounding and then of page 1 again where we need to multiply. Sorry, friends, there's an announcement.
Good morning, staff. If you newly arrived and haven't heard yet, our photographers are here and ready to take your pictures in the gym. Head on to the gym for your pictures now.
All right, friends, that was a fun morning announcement. Okay, I'm going to leave this up for a moment so that you can see. Sorry, I'm moving it over so you can see. Stop the video, look at the answers, and then we're going to use the rest of math time today to sit with Mrs. Helfand and Mrs. Sweeman and go over the things you do not understand. We will retake this so that you can really have a great opportunity to show us what you know.